Ondo is being sold as the next big setup, but the hard part is separating live facts from a future story. The headline target is loud, but the real work is testing what facts support it right now. Here, Ondo ONDO is the search phrase that fits this story because Ondo's token is weak on price, while its RWA infrastructure sits near the center of the tokenized Treasury trade, which creates a mismatch between adoption headlines and chart pressure. That matters for traders chasing upside, but it matters even more for anyone trying to separate an investable setup from a story built mostly on projection. The real problem is that a projected upside number can travel faster than the facts needed to support it. Start with the mechanism. The core mechanism is simple. Tokenized treasuries dominate on-chain RWAs because institutions want yield, stability, and a familiar asset, not a meme narrative. In plain English, the story is balancing a future target against what is actually live today, because a forecast only matters if the mechanism behind it can be measured. That is why the difference between a chart target and an adoption signal matters. One is a forecast. The other is evidence arriving in real time. That is why a move like this can look exciting on the surface and still carry far more risk once you ask who is actually providing the liquidity, the capital, the legal cover, or the operational support. The context matters too. Tokenized RWAs reached about $29.27 billion. Ondo holds roughly $2.6 billion in tokenized treasuries, and price is trying to defend the 24 cents area under resistance near 30 cents. That backdrop is important because speculative markets often borrow credibility from a bigger theme before they have earned it themselves. That is exactly why some targets travel farther on social media than they do in the market itself. For people searching here Ondo ONDO, that bigger backdrop is useful because it explains why this story landed now instead of last month. But context is not the same thing as proof. Here is the split between what is firm and what still needs more evidence. Ondo's token is weak on price, while its RWA infrastructure sits near the center of the tokenized Treasury trade, which creates a mismatch between adoption headlines and chart pressure. The open question is whether institutional demand and ETF attention can absorb token supply and unlock pressure quickly enough to change the market structure. That is the line between a narrative that can mature and a narrative that simply burns hot for a few sessions. Viewers can easily mistake a live headline, a chart move, or a product announcement for a complete answer when it may only be the first visible piece. So who feels this first? That matters for traders chasing upside, but it matters even more for anyone trying to separate an investable setup from a story built mostly on projection. In practical terms, the market is now being asked to price not only the headline event, but also the follow-through. Execution risk, adoption risk, liquidity quality, legal clarity, or recovery credibility, depending on how the next few sessions unfold. If the follow-through is weak, the market usually starts to treat the forecast as marketing instead of analysis. That is where a speculative setup either graduates into a real market story or gets exposed as a temporary attention trade. The next proof point is not the loudest claim. It is this. Watch the 30 cents to 32 cents zone, ETF filing progress, and whether Treasury product growth keeps translating into broader Ondo ecosystem demand. For this video, the most useful close is a concrete one. Watch the 30 cents to 32 cents zone, ETF filing progress, and whether Treasury product growth keeps translating into broader Ondo ecosystem demand. If that signal appears, the story gets stronger. If it does not, the current read can fade quickly. The next clean read on here Ondo ONDO is not a louder slogan. It is whether the next measurable step confirms the same pressure, demand, or trust signal that made this headline matter in the first place.